I'm joined now by the brilliant Lady Collin Campbell. Lady C, great to see you. Now, I was fascinated to hear Tucker Carlson talk about this. I know it's something you've always been big on, given your Jamaican heritage, that this idea.
Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, has long cultivated a specific public image. From her early days as an actress on the television show Suits to her high-profile marriage to Prince Harry, Meghan has always been in the public eye. Her journey from Hollywood to royalty has been nothing short of a modern fairy tale, capturing the imagination of millions around the world.
That Meghan is some sort of representative of black folk around the world, certainly black Americans, just isn't true.
No, not only is it not true, Dan, but I have had complaints from various diplomats and politicians who are both West Indian and African because of the tremendous mischief that Meghan has caused locally in their electorates. And, you know, even when Meghan was at the premiere of the Bob Marley film.
That's right, she went to Jamaica for it.
Yeah. And there was, by the way, incidentally, if you hear crackling in the background, there's a fire behind there that's crackling. So don't think that there are any shots being fired.
How delightful. You look like you're in a beautiful place.
They were, you know, at Terra Nova afterwards, at the after party. People of color, women in particular, refused to speak to Meghan because a variation on the theme was, this is a woman who pretended to be white, who's now trying to cloak herself in color, and we're not having it. She's a fraud and she's a phony as far as we're concerned, and we don't want to have a thing to do with her. And some of them actually were vociferous enough to make cutting comments knowing that she would be able to overhear them. And they refused to speak to her because Meghan has, first of all, she spent most of her life passing for white, which means that she despised that bit of her identity, which was African.
She portrays herself as a compassionate advocate, someone who uses her platform to bring attention to important social issues. Whether it's speaking at charity events, interacting with children, or visiting community centers, Meghan has consistently positioned herself as a force for good, a champion for the marginalized. Her speeches often focus on social justice, equality, and the need for systemic change.
De-Africanizing her appearance, because, I mean, she bronzes up, you know, but many a white woman with a lot of melanin ends up looking far browner than Meghan will ever look, no matter how much bronze she puts on. But she straightens her hair. She's had the tip of her nose redone so that it would lose the bulbous African aspect and have instead the Caucasian tip.
Really? Okay, so sorry to interrupt, Lady C, but I think that is worth really clarifying that. So your suggestion is that Meghan has actually manipulated her look to try and look more white in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
Look at her nose when she was younger and look at it now. Your nose, the tip of your nose doesn't refine with age. If anything, it goes in the opposite direction. Meghan had a very bulbous tip to her nose. And also, why do you think her nose looks like a ski jump from the side? Because they took out, when they were refining this bit, they took out too much cartilage. So now instead of it being coming straight down the way a Caucasian nose would come, it sinks in and then bounces back out. So Meghan is, well, she's somebody who has not only denied her African heritage for much of her life, but has flagrantly capitalized upon it in the most offensive and destructive way once she realized that it would work in her favor. And it's all been to advance herself. But I have to say, what I find particularly psychologically interesting is that anybody could be so ambitious as to use the very aspect of themselves that they denied, that they sought to eradicate, as soon as it became convenient to them to use it, they embraced it with an alacrity that is truly amazing. So that tells you we're dealing with somebody who is really, that has no boundaries and is so ambitious that she will use that which she deplored to advance herself. She definitely does not represent people of color. First of all, the African American experience is entirely different from the Central South American, West Indian, or African experience, because the rest of those territories, with the exception of South Africa in the second part of the 20th century, none of them had segregation.
She has been seen at numerous rallies, meeting with activists, and giving impassioned speeches that call for a more just and equitable society. But what if this carefully crafted persona is nothing more than a facade? What if the image she presents to the world is a strategic construction designed to garner sympathy and support? These questions have been raised by critics who argue that there is a stark difference between Meghan's public persona and her private actions. Recent accusations from high-profile figures like Lady Collin Campbell and Tucker Carlson suggest just that.
Many Blacks in Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, Africa, they had slaves. So slaves were not owned exclusively by white people. You had brown people and Black people, brown freedmen, Black freedmen, who owned slaves as well. This was not a phenomenon that was known in the southern states of America.
Absolutely fascinating. Now,
sorry, go on.
No, you finish your point, Lady C. Sorry.
I'm going to say Meghan's experience of being a woman of color is virtually non-existent because she passed for white for most of her life, including at school. I know this because Gigi Perot, who taught her, spoke to me and said she didn't even realize Meghan was a girl of color until she met her mother, and she only ever met her mother. And her mother only ever went to the school once, which was at Meghan's graduation, where presumably the mother could have been palmed off as the nanny. But Meghan's experience, Meghan has no experience of being a woman of color, and therefore for her to then decide that she, because it suits her purposes, is going to represent people of color and embody their struggle. What struggle? She had no struggle. She was a white woman. And also she's an American white woman. She's not even a West Indian or a Central or South American or an African white woman. She's an American white woman who had and so there's no parallel. Meghan cannot pretend to represent Black people generally. The Black experience differs from place to place, and it's radically different in America from anywhere else.
And of course, the other fascinating thing with this Tucker Carlson interview is it very much is indicative, Lady C, of how American politics, the American psyche, the American culture has changed so much since the election of Donald Trump. And I want us to take a look now at a really interesting guy called Link Lauren, who was an advisor to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and has now become one of America's most outspoken critics against Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. He has spoken out to Jessica Reed Krauss. She is the brilliant author of The House inhabit Substack. So let's have a watch, Lady C.
They claim that Meghan's public image is a well-orchestrated act, aimed at manipulating public perception and advancing her own interests. They allege that Markle has manipulated her racial identity for personal gain, using it as a tool to navigate the complexities of both Hollywood and the British royal family. These critics argue that Meghan has strategically highlighted her mixed-race heritage to align herself with various social movements and causes, exploiting the sensitive issue of race to advance her own career and agenda. They suggest that her involvement in social justice causes is less about genuine concern and more about building a brand that resonates with contemporary social values. The accusations against Meghan Markle, whether true or not, serve as a stark reminder of the importance of critical thinking and discernment. We must not allow ourselves to be manipulated by those in positions of power. We must be vigilant in our pursuit of truth, courageous in our defense of free speech, and unwavering in our commitment to building a more just and equitable society.